The complete development of the personality of children needs a father figure who motivates and disciplines them. I learned that you do not need to be perfect to be a good father. You just need to be there for them. You might not have reached there, but point out the direction and tell them what is at the end of the road. Parents do not need to be perfect, but they can, by doing small things very well with dignity and godly principles, create models in the minds of their children. Welcome back to another episode based on the book Lessons of My Early Life by Dr. Charles Apoki. To get the book, please check the links in the description. You can also get both hard and soft copies on Amazon. This powerful story reflects on family, sacrifice, discipline, and the values that shape destiny. Watch to the end and remember to get your copy of the book through the links in the description. Johnson Emekpu. Apoki was born sometime between 1908 and 1910. I did not really know him until I was about 3 or 4 years old because he lived in Warri, while we were in what was then Ofuoma village, now a town. What I remember most was when he asked that we leave the village and come to Warri around 1963 or 1964. It was a very exciting experience, moving to the township. Then, Warri was made up of small units separated by rivers or bushes. My father hardly beat a child. That was left for my mother to do. My father and mother were not intimate as one would have expected from the foundation of a levirate marriage. They had their fair share of problems that I have written about earlier. My father was a very hard-working man. He worked as a civil servant and mended mud houses for people. He also took the job of building new ones. It was a very tedious job. He had to cut the sticks for the building, tie them with ropes from water cane, dig laterite from a pit, and mix it with water to form a soft, sticky mass. The gaps in between the sticks were then filled with wet laterite, which would later solidify and dry to form a wall. He did this every day for as long as I could remember. We also had a farm around 1966 to 1967, but he was not a typical farmer. My father took his work very seriously. He was not a very social person by the time I knew him. He hardly drank alcohol. He could occasionally get excited and smoke a cigarette when he wanted to be mischievous. One day, the ash from the cigarette fell on his wrapper. The fire burnt through the wrapper onto the cushions that were made from cotton wool. It was only when his legs became hot and the smell of burning cotton became strong that he realized he was on fire. That was the last time I saw him smoke, because that wrapper was quite expensive and fine. He had his own style of life and took his business very seriously, even though it was a menial job. I learned not to mind what others say about the little things I am doing, so long as it is legal and helps feed my family. My father admired people like Nnamdi Azikiwe and other prominent Nigerian politicians like Awolowo, even though he was not educated. I still remember his involvement in a political rally that ended up in a fight. He ran for his dear life. I never saw him involved in a fight outside. The only fights were at home after my mother had pushed him to his limit. My father liked academics and professionals, even though we were poor. He adored suits like the double-breasted suit he called Double B. He hardly saw me wear suits. He had to question me one day why I did not dress like the other doctors he knew. Would I say I am a radical or a deviant? My father labored so hard to pay for my education. I was encouraged, pushed, and disciplined to acquire education from the best schools Nigeria had then. My academic success was a source of great joy to him. When I passed very well, he would ask me to jump, jump, and jump while calling me Charles, Charles, Charles. He would give a big smile. His teeth were not complete and were not clean, but it was a source of encouragement because he was my father. The complete development of the personality of children needs a father figure who motivates and disciplines them. I learned that you do not need to be perfect to be a good father. You just need to be there for them. You might not have reached there, but point out the direction and tell them what is at the end of the road. Parents do not need to be perfect, but they can, by doing small things very well with dignity and godly principles, create models in the minds of their children. My father did just that. Inside me is a framework of steel covered by a concrete of Christianity and a painting of education. That steel was put in me by observing my father labor. When I started ministry, I would carry bags of books with straps over my shoulder. My shoulders would peel off flakes of dead skin. I would sit in crammed buses to save money. I did many odd, non-illegal things below my status as a doctor, just to feed and train my family. Today, I drive an SUV to carry books to my programs. I could not buy fuel to preach with my car then. Today, I buy fuel costing much more every month. Those whose homes my father mended would come to Warri Hospital then, looking for Dr. Apoki. They would introduce themselves to me. They did not need to. I knew them. My mother-in-law worked very hard to train my wife. So we have this dual background of illiterate parents who spent so much effort to give academic inheritance to their children. We are thus indebted to our children to give them the best. Even when we could hardly feed, we sent our children to the most expensive schools around us and tried our best. We owe them that debt. This is the generational transaction that is absent in Nigeria now. Barack Obama retraced the route Abraham Lincoln took to his inauguration ceremony more than 150 years ago. During his campaign, Barack would mention his grandmother's sacrifice. Martin Luther King was a recurrent decimal. Nelson Mandela, Desmond Tutu, Mahatma Gandhi, Che Guevara, and Nasser of Egypt are currencies of generational transactions, as Abraham, Ruth, and Paul are currencies of spiritual transactions. My father warned me that sleeping with another man's wife would shorten your lifespan. So I have always stayed away from women, particularly other people's wives. What really is there in another man's wife? I grew up in a household where we respected another man's property. If you were found with anything that was not bought for you, it had to be returned to where you got it from. That is a lesson I learned early integrity. My father loved his extended family because he benefited from it through the levirate marriage to my mother from his maternal side. All kinds of people crammed into our home from his maternal side. He had strong emotional attachment to them, even though most of these young men were not there when he needed them most in old age and paralysis. If not that he trained me and God helped me, he would have suffered a great deal. Learn this. Never neglect your children and your future because of church and extended family problems. When you need church people and members of your extended family most, you might not find them. Know it again. One day comes and you might be on your own. Plan for it. I am planning my life, with the help of God, to live an independent, fulfilled life in old age. I see a lot of old men who served God faithfully but did not plan for old age. My elder brothers displayed gross irresponsibility and craftiness, as I said earlier. Even their children showed so much wickedness by not visiting my parents, who were their grandparents, for even one day before their death. Their children also displayed this wickedness towards my two elder brothers, who were neglected by their children. I took some time to, at least within my ability, take care of the eldest, but when he died, his children came and organized a big burial ceremony. May God have mercy on them. My wife and I took very good care of my parents despite all the challenges we faced. The villagers who came for my father's burial could testify to this. My father had become bedridden because of old age and spinal cord injury complications for 8 years. We had built a house for them. He died after moving into that house. He lived there for only 3 days or so. I was informed that he was at the point of death. Before I could get there from Abba, about 3.5 hours away, he had died and was taken to the mortuary. My uncle told me that any time he told him I would soon be there, he would open his eyes and drift off again. The last memory I have of him is just before he was lowered into the grave. He was stone cold, with cotton wool in his nostrils, but he looked calm. His hair was silver grey. He had done his best. I was 31 years old. I miss my father every time I achieve some success. He should have been around to share these successes. I have lost all my brothers, my mother, and my auntie. There are times I feel exposed, but I have faith, I have a family, and I have Jesus. Polygamy is a major evil in our land. It distances children from their fathers and even creates enmities between fathers and children and amongst children. I have learnt to firmly hold on to my family. This chapter reflects on the life and influence of a father whose hard work, discipline, and values shaped a generation. It highlights the importance of integrity, sacrifice, family responsibility, and long-term thinking. It also emphasizes planning for the future and maintaining strong family bonds despite challenges. Thank you for watching this episode from Lessons of My Early Life. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Remember to check the links in the description to get your copy of Lessons of My Early Life. You can also get both hard and soft copies on Amazon. Share this with someone who needs these timeless lessons. God bless you.